Here in Key West, we were out before it was in. In this open and inclusive paradise, you can be yourself, make new friends, and savor our live and let live vibe. With LGBTQ plus friendly accommodations, our legendary nightlife, and year-round activities and events, it's always a good time to come as you are. Key West, close to perfect, far from normal.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 4, and today I'm joined by Florida native, head coach at Kell High School, Coach Bobby May. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you having me on.
Well, Coach, just like I do with everybody, tell us where you grew up.
So I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Good Lord.
Palm Beach Gardens area. And, played at Dwyer High School, which back in the time was a kind of a powerhouse for football. And then, spent my whole life there, but then actually I wasn't very good, so I only had a few opportunities. I had to leave the state to play football, so I ended up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at Concordia University.
Good, gracious alive. Well, what else did you play in high school? Because everybody I've met from Florida, like all Florida kids, they don't just specialize.
Yeah, I played basketball. I really played basketball my whole life until I got to high school. I started playing football, and then so I played basketball and football, and then I played lacrosse. Starting my 10th grade year, I played lacrosse and actually was really better at lacrosse than all of them. And I played lacrosse and football in college as well. We played a little bit of everything. I mean, I played baseball growing up, but so a little bit of everything. We never really stopped. I had an older brother too, and he played the same thing: baseball, basketball, football. So we never really stopped.
So you end up from West Palm Beach to Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, when I was playing, there wasn't any really small schools in Florida. Kaiser and all those things weren't around. So pretty much you're going to leave the state. I grew up with just my mom. My dad lived in Rockford, which is about 2 hours away from Milwaukee. So when I went on visits, I pretty much just flew to his house and we visited kind of the whole Midwest, and I ended up liking, Concordia the most, and they had football and lacrosse. So, they were getting a lacrosse team. They actually didn't have it when I first went there. I guess I skipped a few states in between, but I knew I had to leave Florida regardless. So, so that's how I ended up there.
I can't imagine the difference in weather.
Our first year, they got 110 inches of snow. Concordia is right on Lake Michigan, so it gets a ton of snow. And it's a beautiful campus right on Lake Michigan. But I had been up, because like I said, my dad lived in Chicago my whole life, so I'd been up there. But there's about 35 kids from Florida, and most of them had never seen snow before. And like I said, we got about 110 inches that first year, so it's definitely a little bit different. And most of them, as you can imagine, did not graduate from there because they ended up going home. So.
Well, it's probably helped you as a coach, too, when you try to place kids or help kids realize their dreams when you're like, all right, look, dude,
Right.
You're going somewhere, or you're talking to the coach going, look, man, this kid ain't never seen snow.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
No, it definitely helps you guide some kids and kind of based off your experiences and hopefully get them in the right spot. Although this day and age with the portal and all that stuff, who knows what the right spot is?
Well, it's just, the trickle down is what, I don't know. We'll get it. We might get into that later. But so you go to Concordia. Did you know all along that you wanted to be a coach, or did you go to school initially to do something else? Or
No, I went to school to teach, and then I was in between that. Well, so my first job in high school, I was a chef at a Mexican restaurant. Well, kind of like a Chipotle, but a little bit more. But so I was either going to go to culinary school or I was going to go be a coach, and so I decided to go be a coach. And yeah, I pretty much knew right away. And you know, my degrees in history and political science. So I pretty much knew that that's what it was. Actually, I started coaching in college. We practiced in the morning, so I started coaching a middle school team down the road with actually my roommate. So I actually was coaching in college as well. So yeah, I pretty much always knew.
well, that's cool that you got to go ahead and get your feet wet and start at the middle school level. So coming out of school, what was your first paying gig?
So after I graduated, I moved to Tampa, Florida, and my brother was a strength and conditioning coach at a place called Saddlebrook. He's still there. He trains a bunch of NFL and Major League guys. So I went an intern there for about 6 months, and we trained, I trained Derek Jeter. Well, got to help train Derek Jeter, Ryan Howard, guys like that. Mike Neal, I don't know if you remember from the Packers, and guys like that. And then my brother, he really focused a lot on tennis, John Isner and so on and so forth. And so I worked there for about 6 to 8 months as a strength and conditioning coach, and I helped with combine stuff with guys like Alshon Jeffries and things like that. So and then I took a GA job. I knew I wanted to coach, so I took a GA job at Robert Morris University, which is now Roosevelt, which is in Chicago. So I moved back up to that area. And it's right. The school is right downtown Chicago, off of State Street, but the camp or the field was in Schaumburg, Illinois. So I took a GA job there. I actually took the punter's GA job. So in college I went there to play tight end. I actually had some Division I walk-on opportunities to punt out of high school, but I wanted to play, so I went there to play tight end. I started my first 3 years as a tight end receiver, and then I had 3 shoulder surgeries, and the second game of my junior year, I ended up redshirting the rest of the year. Then after that, I only punted. So my college career is a little bit different, I guess. So my redshirt junior year, and then my senior year, I just punted. So, but anyways, I took a punting kickers coach GA job at Robert Morris, which is NAIA school. It was only their second. It was only their second year having a program. But then within 2 weeks, I was rooming with the DC. The defensive backs GA left, so I became the defensive backs GA as well. And then I got my master's in about 8 months, which was awesome. So then I stayed there for 2 more years in a restricted earnings spot, in a paid spot. So that was kind of my first gig, was doing the NAIA football deal. Paid is probably a loose term, I guess. But technically, I made a little bit of money, I guess. So yeah, in college I did all defense, so that was pretty cool to get to see that side of the ball. So defense and special teams. So yeah, so I was there for 3 seasons, but 2.5 years.
Yeah, I had Danny Verpel on. We were down in Orlando for the Nike Coach of the Year clinic last year, and he was talking about when he first got started and how he would sleep on a couch in the library and wherever. Mm-hmm. And he was just talking about how, trying to get it out to the young coaches, not slipping on your dreams and not, trying to put the fire out, but just kind of know what you're getting into, because it's not all these guys that make 1.6 and
So the dumbest part about it was, and I learned a lot of football and stuff like that, and I still have a couple really good friends from them. But the dumbest part is they didn't even pay for all my masters. You know what I mean? Like they paid for 75% of my master's, which, most VAs you get a full ride, get a full gig at least, and then they give you a little bit of money. But so I lived off student loans, and then you know we had like I told you, the school was downtown, but the facility was about 45 minutes away. So the kids would take the train every day from downtown to the facility. It's amazing how we won any games. I don't know how we did. So, and then we pick them up. We rented the 15 passenger vans for the season. We pick them up the train station, which was like 2 minutes away. But the young coaches had to ride the train back with them to make sure they didn't get in trouble. We had to pay for those train rides. So we had to lose even more money riding the train back just to supervise these kids, which, looking back is crazy. But
you paid them to coach there.
Exactly. No, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm still paying my student loans for it. But then, on top of it, like I said, just, paying to take the train back. But it was a good experience and learned a lot. And but about 3 years into it, like I said, I got a raise, and I think I was making about 16 grand my third year, and I was like, nope. So I moved back to West Palm. My grandma got sick, so I moved back in with her to help take care of her and got a job. I finished out the year subbing at a local school, and then I got a job at actually what was our rival high school, Palm Beach Gardens High School, teaching social studies. But I coached at a different school, which Palm Beach County is all jacked up. So, that sounds crazy, but it wasn't too crazy down there. So I coached at a different school for a year as a defense coordinator at a different high school, Palm Beach Lakes High School. But then I ended up going back or staying the next year and coaching at Gardens High School, which is actually where my wife went. And that's kind of how I met my wife, through kind of people that were there, and she's a teacher as well. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got out of college, I guess, and my first paid high school job.
You stayed in that area. I know I had Chuck Kenyon on the other day, and he's at Royal Palm.
Yeah, so I stayed down there. So I was an assistant down there for 2 years, and then I got a head job at Suncoast High School, which was right down the road. And they were, I think I was 25, 26, and they had always pretty much been terrible, and probably the only reason they hired me. I was the head coach there for 2 years. We had a good couple years, compared.
Drew McIntyre here from WWE. Wielding the Claymore can be a life of chaos. When I'm not dominating in the ring, Chumba Casino is how this warrior takes a wee break. With hundreds of online social games and new weekly releases, there's always something fresh to try. And those daily boosts, next level. Even my free time feels like Valhalla. So when life feels like a battle, kick up your feet, have some fun, and let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T's and C's. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Comparatively, but once my wife's a teacher as well, and once she got pregnant with our first daughter, I was like, we got to get out of here. The cost of living was just too high. The teacher pay was terrible. My stipend was $2,800 to be the head coach. I joke we were at an IB school, and it was a top 50 public school in the country, which is great, but you had to have over a 3.0 to go there, so you had to apply as a magnet. And then, so obviously, not a plethora of athletes. And then, if you drop below a 3.0, you were removed from the school and you went back to your home school. And you could not come in after ninth grade. So whoever you started with in the ninth grade was the people you would have, but you would always lose kids every year. So my first year there, I was the head coach, football and the head lacrosse coach. I taught 5 periods of AP World History, and then I taught a 6th period, an extra period of, just like online Edmonton. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. My first game, the principal, our first game of the year, the principal came in and did an evaluation on that Friday. So that's pretty much when I realized that football didn't matter there. But like I said, my wife was pregnant, was a real big thing. And I knew if we had the kid in Florida, it would be hard to leave. So I interviewed for a bunch of jobs up here, but I ended up taking the offensive coordinator job at Westlake High School with Kareem Reed, which was in January of 2018. So I moved up here in January, and then my family moved up here. Well, my wife pregnant wife moved up here in May when she finished the school year. So
That's
that
one thing I
makes-
won't list. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's one thing I want listeners to make sure that they pay attention to is these guys in Florida work their tails off, and you Georgia guys, us Georgia guys, you cannot appreciate how little they get paid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
words
like I said.
can't. I mean, we talked off air about, James Thompson big in the Florida Coaches Coalition
Yep.
and trying to get coaches paid, and it's not just trying to get you guys. I mean, you're one of us now, but you know what I'm saying. Those guys.
Yeah.
It's not just trying to get them paid what we get paid. It's just trying to get them paid
Anything.
a living wage. I mean, he's talking
Yeah,
about being he's talking about being the head football coach, and he's getting paid $2,800. Most of us wouldn't stop and pick $2,800 up off the sidewalk.
I'll take it even further. So I was, like I said, I was teaching AP World History, 5 periods. I had an extra period which I got paid for, so I taught 6 out of 6 classes. I was the head football coach and head lacrosse coach, and I made less than $50,000.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So, and this was this was in 2017. It's not like it's that long ago,
Right.
My wife taught extra periods as well, and same thing. She had her master. I had my master's too. I didn't get paid for it, so I didn't get paid for my master's down there. My wife was getting paid for hers at a whopping $2,500 a year extra. Same thing. She taught extra periods and so on and so forth. So,
well, you guys just coming to Georgia, your state base pay got you all a raise from the jump.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, I took over, and cost of living. I took a coordinator job, and at Westlake we didn't have a booster club or anything like that, so it's not like I was getting a big booster check or anything like that. But just the teaching salary alone and the cost of living, what we sold our house for, what we were paying, or what we were paying at the house we bought up here was just. My wife was able to stay home for 2 years up here, which, obviously was important to us. So, I tell Florida coaches all the time, like, unfortunately, you got to get out because it's not right.
No, we also talked off air about me going down there and meeting guys, and I was like, man, I don't see how you guys eat. And I'm not being funny and not being ugly. It's just fact.
Yeah, it's sad, and football in Palm Beach County used to be really, really good.
Oh yeah, you got
the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you guys don't have players. I mean,
it's just now everybody got tired of unfortunately for the kids that the coaches got smart and realized it probably wasn't worth their time, and there's not a lot of good coaching down there and not a lot of resources to to help out.
It's insane, absolutely insane.
It's pretty sad.
I mean, like you said, he's talking about 2017. That's 8 years ago. He's not talking about 1997 when I was when I first got into coaching.
And by the way, I don't think the stipends have gone up since then. They hadn't gone up in 15 years when I was there, and I don't think they've gone up since I left.
And the state base pays garbage too. I mean,
right. And then, like I said, if you have your master's and you don't have it in the exact subject you teach, it's worth nothing. Even if you have your master's, it's worth $2,500 a year. So it's just I don't know how people do it.
So
especially two teachers,
Right. So you make the jump. You come to Georgia with Coach Reed. You're at Westlake, which is notorious for having some of the best athletes. Probably produced more NFL. Ain't no probably. I think they produced more NFL talent than any other high school in the state of Georgia. That had to be fun.
Yeah. So like I said, I was coming from a magnet school. We had to have over a 3.0, and we had, when I got there, we had 28 kids on the roster, and we won some games, but we didn't have what Westlake had. So, when I was watching their film before, that they weren't very good on offense, but they had players, so I knew I could come in and make an impact, and thought it'd be pretty fun to coach some good players, which it was. We had a good season offensively. I think we led the state in scoring that year, or we were close. So we had a lot of fun, and then part of the reason too I moved there was just the cost of living in that area where I ended up moving, which was higher, which really wasn't that close, but was cheaper than some of the other places that I've been talking to. And like I said, I knew we had a pretty good chance to win some football games. And Kareem's a really good coach, and he's a good guy to work for. And The good thing is too, he was a defensive guy, so he left me alone, and then he let me bring my offensive line coach from South Florida, who's still with me today, and that was huge because I can coach a lot of things, but offensive line is not one of them. So that was huge, and it was really good, and so we had a good year that year, and then come about March, he leaves and takes the Griffin job, and I'm like, oh crap. I gotta. At that point, I got about a year old, and then my wife tells me she's pregnant like a couple of weeks after. So I was like, oh god, and I didn't know anybody really in Georgia, once that happened. So, yeah, that was fun, but luckily it worked out. So about April, I got named the head coach at Westlake, and was lucky to have some really good players, and have 3 years there of some 3 really good years there as the head coach, and then we decided to move on to Kell, and that's where I am now, and that's been really great too. We've been able to have some success, and obviously Kell's always been a pretty good program, but had some kind of middle of the road years, I would say, and we've kind of been able to revitalize that. And the same thing, like I was able to bring a lot of my guys with me. A lot of my staff is from South Florida. So just off the top of my head, my defensive coordinator, my offensive coordinator, my DB's coach, I'm missing something, and my receivers coach are all from South Florida. So, that's been good to kind of go through this with them, and, experience different parts of Georgia with those guys. And like I said, we love it at Kell. It's a great community, and we're excited to be here.
Well, it's like one thing about Westlake, being Fulton County, South Fulton County, and a lot of Georgia coaches, we're like, man, that big city, big system, and horror stories about being in big school systems, and not everybody gets the same resources, and you don't have, like you said, a booster club, and you don't have things like South Georgia schools that are single school systems, and you don't have one feeder and all this other stuff. But I really think coming from Florida with what you guys have to deal with, you're probably like, oh, this ain't so bad.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of those things, like you don't know what you don't know. When I first got up there, like I said, I visited a few schools when I came up to interview, but they were all, um, they were all similar setups, like they're all big city schools. Some had boosters, some didn't, so on and so forth. But the facilities are just, I mean, I'd never seen a school with 2 gyms before I came up here, and every school up here pretty much has 2 gyms. Just that alone was, and we played on maybe one turf field in South Florida, so just that alone, I was like, what do you mean we don't have enough resources? You know what I mean? Like we got plenty here. And, my stipend almost doubled just to be an assistant in Fulton County. That's without any booster pay or anything like that. So, it was, for me, just as a football coach, like it was good enough for me, you know what I mean? And it was awesome. And like I said, we had some really great players and some really great kids, and we definitely enjoyed our time there. And but yeah, I mean, just the difference in resources and facilities, and not even that, just like, people don't realize that, like, football is important in Florida, but it's not really important, if that makes sense. Let's put it this way. Like when I interviewed at the head coaching job I was at Suncoast, like I interviewed, and that was the first conversation when I had with them, and that was the last conversation I had with them before they offered me the job. Like I don't think that happens at a real Georgia school. You know what I mean? Right. They were just happy to have somebody who they thought was a decent person, and I was just happy to have a job. Like I don't think that, at least in my experience, that's not really how it happens around here. You would never expect in Florida, like I was the only football coach on campus, but that wasn't out of the norm, so things like that are definitely Georgia's got to figure it out, in regards to those things.
Yeah, I just think it's easier for you guys to adjust because of the adversity that you've had to deal with from the coaching standpoint, that you're like, what are you guys pardon my language, bitching about.
Right.
What are you guys complaining about? We've got it.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Hey,
Our practice field of my first head coaching job, my second year, was condemned. We had to take a bus from school and go practice at the middle school, which was about 5 miles away, just to have practice. Our first 3 games, we were supposed to have home games. We couldn't have home games because our field was so bad. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking back. I don't know how we made it through that, but I guess we just didn't know. We didn't know what we didn't know, and I guess we're a little bit spoiled now.
Yeah, you got to Westlake. We thought you were in Jerry's world.
Exactly right, and then you see all these other places, and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I remember.
Just like I said, just a brand new turf field. I'm like, holy.
Yeah, you're probably gonna take this the wrong way, but I remember when Kell came open, and everybody was talking about who's going where and whatever, and the initials get put up there, and they're like, oh, whatever, and somebody said, is Bobby gonna go to Kell? And I made the comment, and please, Kell people, don't come at me, not being ugly, because I love the fact that you're the horns and all that kind of stuff. And I when school opened, I applied for the job because I think it's a great situation. But I was like, he ain't leaving unless he's tired of winning. Good God, he's got them athletes at Westlake for days. What in the world is he thinking? And then you got it, and I was like, never mind. But I mean, there's always, bigger situation, better facilities probably. There's just other things that come into play, closer to Hiram. I mean, just all kind of things that play into that. But let's talk about the transfer into Kell and just, getting ready to take them to the next step, because they've always been, like you said, they've always been there, just haven't been able to get over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, so it wasn't something I was looking for. I mean, I was happy at Westlake. My family was happy at Westlake. The one kind of negative is, honestly, which people don't understand about Westlake, we actually really couldn't afford to live close to the school.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of money around there, and then just the schools in the area were not as good as, honestly, the schools at Kell. But either way, like, we were happy. We were winning. We lost in the quarterfinals the year I left. The year before, we lost in the semis. Like, we were winning, but we lose a 3rd round game to Carrollton. Pretty close. We were down big, and we lost by 4 points at the end of the game. It was like 45-44 or 45-41. And my phone was ringing from some people at Kell, and I wasn't really interested in leaving. But once I kind of heard them out, and the administration at Westlake was great, but I think that the kind of autonomy that principals have, and that, at least my principal at Kell had, was a lot different. Like he understood what needed to happen. They had a supportive booster club. They have a feeder program. I'm in charge of basically 3-year-olds through 12th graders now, and that was pretty cool. Again, Westlake didn't have a feeder program, and then the school system, or the school district, I should say, is really good, and our particular feeder schools are really good, and obviously the resources and things like that played a part into it, and I knew, because of the administration, that we'd had the chance to win, but there was a lot of that. You get there and you're like, did I mess up? You know what I mean? Just as far as the kind of the people in the building, the athletes in the building. But we knew we could win. We just had to, develop some guys and things like that. And like I said, Kell's made the playoffs 16 years in a row, so they've never been bad. You know what I mean? They just, the last few years before, had kind of fallen to average, if that makes sense. And but really, it was just a decision. Like right now, the elementary school is across the street from my house. I walk my daughter to school every morning, then go to school. The middle school is right across the street as well. So that's cool for us. And like I said, Cobb obviously has gone up in pay about 18% since I got here. Which that's more luck than anything. But obviously that's been great as well. And but I also knew, my to be honest with you, my best assistant, his fiance lived in this area, and I knew I was going to lose him. And another one was already commuting up here, so I knew I was going to lose him. So I was like, well, it's now or never, So kind of just took a leap of faith, and like I said, trusted the admin, and it's been really great so far.
All right. So your first head coaching job's at a magnet school. You go to Westlake and you inherit a program after a year. So you have to put your own spin on it. And then you're
Yeah.
going into Kell, where you've got to walk in and say, all right, how can we get this to the next level? At each turn where you walked in, what was the very first thing or first few things that you were like, hi, I'm Coach May, and this is what I believe in, and by God, we got to make sure this gets done? Was it the weight room? Was it, I mean, what did you walk in at Kell and say, we got to get this done first?
Yeah, I mean, I think at Cal it was just kind of like it kind of just needed a fresh set of kind of just a fresh new life, and we needed to really have a dependency on the weight room and have the right guys running the weight room and have kind of uh, the right mindset in the feeder program. I think the middle school program. I put my varsity coaches in charge of the middle school program, and they kind of took it and ran with it. And those guys have done really, really well. And we've the last 2 years we've played a lot of young guys because of that. But I think like I said, I think it's just a commitment to putting the players first, which is important. I think kids need to have fun playing football, especially this day and age when they have so many other options. And I think we do a good job of building relationships with our kids. If anybody knows around me, like I coach really, really hard on the field, and sometimes I'm not the nicest person and things like that on the field, but I think our staff does a good job of kind of backing that up on off the field with the relationships we have with our kids, so that we can coach them hard and get more out of them. And I'm not talking about scheme or anything like that. I'm just talking about focusing on individual skills that obviously are needed to be successful in football. And I think we do a really good job of coaching those really, really hard. But I think that's because we have relationships with our kids that allow us to do that. All three spots have been kind of completely different. I think Kell is kind of in between both the other two. I think it's, the day-to-day is really, really great. The hallways are pretty quiet, and we do get some decent athletes that run through there as well. And we have a principal that's super supportive, and we have 10 coaches in the building, and which is for a school of 1,400 kids is to me really, really good. I had less than that at Westlake, and I definitely had less than that at Suncoast, my first job. So I think that's really important.
So it'd be fair to say, I mean, your background, you started out, strength and conditioning, helping develop people. It sounds like development is your strong suit, is developing young talent. I mean, sending your guys down to the middle school. I mean, it just sounds like that your emphasis was, all right, we're going to develop them young and spend a lot of time on making sure they're developed and get the individual stuff knocked out and bring them along at a good pace.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, it's Metro Atlanta. Like, you're going to get transfers, and you get all this stuff, but if you don't develop the kids in your building, you're going to have issues, or you're going to lose kids, because if you don't spend time with them, then they're going to feel like then somebody else will, and like I said, but in order to do that, I think especially with kids these days who can go somewhere else or go play video games, you have to have some relationships off the field that allow you to really push that kid. I think the hardest thing to do as a coach is, like, it's easy in the weight room or on the field or whatever to see if a kid's giving 50%, but it's really hard to tell if a kid's giving 90% versus 100%. Does that make sense? I think that's the hardest thing to do, but I think that makes the biggest difference.
So what do you see, like, how are things program wise going forward? I mean, how was this year in your mind, and what are you looking forward to in the off season and going into next year?
Yeah, so I mean, this year was tough. We battled a lot of injuries. We had some season-ending injuries to some key guys early in the year. Top it off with the fact that we only had 11 seniors, and only about 5 or 6 of them played. So that was tough. But like hindsight, looking back, I mean, the teams we lost to, Blessed Trinity, Creekside, Lowndes, and Sequoia, like all of them are really, really good football teams.
Yeah, they ended up doing all right.
Right. We lost a tough one in the second round to Creekside. We lost by a touchdown. Had a chance, had our chances to win. We were up. I mean, we were up 21-6 going into half. So hindsight, looking at the kids that we played and the kids that are coming back, I feel a little bit better about it than I did, I guess, going into it. I think we won 10 games the first year there. We won 9 games the second year. And this year it seems like we took a step back, but we played a lot tougher of a schedule. Purposely, I didn't make the first schedule when I got there, but I made this schedule purposely because we needed to be tested and we needed to develop. And like I said, we'll return about 18 starters next year. So 17, 18 starters next year, including our quarterback, and 10 out of 11 starters on defense. So hindsight, I feel pretty good about it, especially the kids who got hurt coming back and things like that. But I feel like we're in a good spot. Just from like a youth program perspective, and a lot of people don't talk about this. I mean, we hadn't had a Kell youth program, first grade through fifth grade made the playoffs in 4 years, and we had 3 teams make the playoffs this year. And then our 8th grade team won their division championship this year. So things like that are good. The numbers are up. Our first spring game, we dressed 44 people in the spring game. We have over 105 in the program now. And at the high school level. So that's really important as well. Just having the numbers, obviously, to practice hard, and we'd like to have more, and we'd like to practice harder and things like that. But I think, overall, I think we're definitely trending in the right direction.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome. So what, I've had younger coaches approach me about, I'm real big on people calling me or texting me and telling me things to improve the conversations I have with you guys, and they all want to know the same thing. So I'm going to ask you, like, if you're interviewing with me and we're sitting down and I say, Coach, what's your coaching philosophy? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, our coaching philosophy is like my thing is I want to build men of character, and I know everybody says that, but to be honest with you, like I want to have productive members of society come through my program. You know what I mean? And I want to teach them the skill sets necessary to succeed in whatever they do. And our team focus is based around the motto DMGB, which means doesn't matter, get better. So for us, it's kind of a constant, like, if you win by 40, like, it doesn't matter, we can get better. If we lose by 40, it doesn't matter, we can get better. If we win by 1, doesn't matter, we can get better. And we're constantly looking towards improvement in all aspects of life so that we can be successful. And like 7, 8 years ago, I wouldn't have said this, but like in 30 years, I'm not going to remember if in 2020 we won 12 or 13 games. Like, it's not going to matter. It's what's going to matter is the kids we impacted and the kids we allowed to be successful at whatever that next phase of life is. And we want to give those kids the opportunities, as many opportunities as possible. We've done a really good job of getting kids into school to play football. Obviously, they have to have talent to do that, but I think we do a really good job of promoting them. And I think that's what it's about.
So when y'all win that state championship ring, it's going to say DMGB on us. What it's going to say?
Yes.
Period.
Yes, it will.
Already picked out.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. How do you deal with, you said, you alluded to, you got kids transfer in, they transfer out and all this other stuff. It's kind of a smaller version of what we're seeing at the college level with the transfer portal and all the other stuff. How do you deal with it? I mean, I've always worked in small rural or big rural South Georgia schools where they ain't going nowhere. The next town's too far. They ain't transferring. Ain't none of them moving. When nobody's moving in, so it's just not a thing. And I think that's why, as the state championships are coming up, we only see, once you get above AAA, you don't see anybody that's not north of Macon playing in it, because you've got more of a population to choose from.
Yeah.
And I mean, the South Georgia juggernauts that have always had the run of the roost ain't gonna like me saying it, but it's just fact. It's the way it is. It's a math problem.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it, or do you just coach the
Yeah.
ones that say her? I mean,
So my first head job, like I mentioned before, like you could only lose kids because it was a magnet. So like
yeah, you're
if
like
you
a
had
service academy.
essentially right, like if you had, let's just say you had 300 kids in your freshman class, like if you lost 50, it's not like they brought 50 in more in as sophomores. You know what I mean? So you can only lose kids. So I realized pretty quick, and South Florida's been a transfer, like they have no rules for
Yeah, they're like the
transfers, right?
wild, wild west.
Right. So in South Florida and in Georgia football, if you're not getting kids, you're losing kids. You know what I mean? So we want to do everything we can to make our program attractive for the kids in our building. My first year when I got hired at Kell, before I started, 11 kids transferred out. And we had just done really good things at Westlake, but it didn't matter. 11 kids transferred out. 4 of them were Division I kids. So
Yikes.
when I get hired, I look at the roster. I'm like, we're gonna be pretty darn good next year. You know what I mean? So on and so forth. 11 kids transfer out. Like I said, 5 of them to one school, which was right next door to us. So on and so forth. But I never got upset about it. Whatever it was, we just like you said, DMGB. We just kept moving. But again, if you do the right things to keep your people and your program happy, and you do the right things to keep your parents happy, obviously within reason. Most parents are never happy, but then it is what it is. You know what I mean? You have to recruit kids in your hallway, and you have to recruit your own kids, and whatever happens after that, like, it kind of is what it is. You can only do what you can do. But anyways, my first year, we had 3 kids that had never played football before start for us on a 10-win team. My first year at Kell, I should say. Sorry. 2 of them were basketball players, and one of them was a baseball player. They had never played football before. Sorry, they had never played football in high school before, I should say. And they ended up being starters for us on a 10-win team. Who made it to the Sweet 16. So, uh, I don't make excuses about it. I don't complain about it. And like I said, it kind of is what it is these days. Um, you know,
Yeah, it's just weird. I mean, it's to us older guys, and especially guys that have never been in Metro, that
yeah,
it's kind of you're in
yeah.
flux all the time. It's a transfer
I
portal
mean,
all the
yeah,
time. You could have them this week, and next week they
well,
get mad and go somewhere
yeah. I mean,
else.
we had 2 kids who should have been juniors for us this year, and they transferred out in January last year. They left Kell, and um, I watched both of them play each other on TV last week in the semifinals, and um, but I still text those guys and tell them good game or whatever it is. It just kind of is what it is. First of all, most of the time the kid doesn't control it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Most of the time it's the parents moving it. So and that's probably changed. Like I don't hold grudges against people who choose to leave the program. And I think, like I said, 8, 9, 10 years ago, it hurt a little bit more, if that makes sense. But like I said, I still text those guys and tell them good game and so on and so forth. And if that's what their parents and them chose to do, then it is what it is.
Right. You control the controllables.
Right. Does it hurt a little bit? Sure, but
Well,
like
how
I
do
said,
things work up there with staff retention? I mean, anytime you have success and you said you've got a core group that you've kept together, the
yeah,
more success you have, not only are people going to be trying to poach your kids, they're going to poach your coaches too.
yeah. I mean, we've had some guys, interview some jobs and even offer some jobs, and we've been pretty lucky to keep most of our core staff around. And I try to think it's because I make it as easy as I can. I mean, obviously, football season's always, I hate the word the grind, but it's always a grind. But I try to make it easy on them and their families as much as possible, and we try to our families try to spend a lot of time together and things like that. So maybe I guess it makes it a little harder for them to leave, but it also makes it easier for us to work together. And like I said, I try to treat them right, but we've had some guys leave, we had some guys come back. So, but that's part of it, and I hope any of our guys who want those opportunities, feel comfortable to go after them, and I think they do, and I'll support them in any way if I can. But that's a good thing. It's kind of like seeing your baby go off, I guess, to do bigger things. So,
oh, absolutely.
but,
I think we find these days too, especially the older guys, old heads, you're finding that you're going to have to develop coaches just as much as you develop the kids.
right. And especially again in South Florida, like we didn't have very many stipends. Anybody who wanted to coach, like, hey, come on. So you really have to develop a system, so that when coaches do leave, you can fit somebody in and you're not reinventing the wheel. But I think you have to also give your coaches the autonomy to coach. Coaches want to coach. They don't want to be told what to do every single second. Obviously, there's some give and take to that, but you got to let your coaches coach too, and have a say, or at least have a belief in what you're doing.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. The first guy I ever coached with, I think that's something that helped me out as a young coach is him saying, "What do you think?" Or what do you think we should do here? And I would offer my opinion, and sometimes we'd try it. And if it worked, he'd pat me on the head and say, "Hey, that was good." And if it didn't work, he'd go, "That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. We're never doing that again." But I mean, you know what I'm saying? You got to try stuff.
Right.
You got to play in the sandbox. And he's like, "All right, here's your box. Here's all your toys. Stay in the box. I don't care how you play with your toys, but I want to see this, and this. Go make it happen."
Yep.
And
that's what we try to do. And my defense coordinator is great at that, at kind of giving them their toolkit, for their individual drills and kind of just making sure, because I call the offense still, and I pretty much, I float around, but I let my D coordinator do his thing, and those guys, again, they have their toolkit and they're allowed to coach and have some say, but it all has to be for whatever our purpose is, if that makes sense.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you want a CEO head coach, I can do that because it's pretty simple. On defense, make sure they don't score, make sure they're fast, and tackle. Offense, you guys score.
Yeah.
I'll be over here on the sideline if y'all need me for anything.
Sounds easy, huh?
I can do that, but I'll deal with the parents, the administration, and raising money, and I'll run all this other nonsense that you don't realize when you take a head coaching job that you have to deal with. At least you still call plays, man. You at least still get to do football stuff.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah. Sometimes
it would suck if you just had, if you just were the CEO guy.
Yeah, I still enjoy coaching, and I still enjoy like I said, the actual coaching part of it. Sometimes I feel like it's time, but for right now, I'm managing it okay. I got a good staff who does a lot of the, leg work on some things that helps me out. So as long as I have that, then I think I'm good.
Well, you've had a very unique journey, starting off at the college level and being all over the country and riding the L through Chicago to get kids to practice, and coming from Florida up to Georgia and having a unique perspective of, situations that some of us in Georgia think aren't that great. It's all about perspective.
Yeah.
And you've done a great job. You're extremely well thought of amongst Georgia coaches. I hope you know that. We're proud of the jobs that you've done at Westlake and continue to do at Kell, and can't wait to see what you continue to do for the young people and develop the character in DMGB, baby.
I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you do.
Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.